Welcome to the Classics Corner. I'm your host, Karen, and I'm absolutely thrilled to embark on this literary journey with you. Here, we'll dive deep into the enchanting world of classic literature, exploring timeless tales that have shaped the literary landscape throughout the ages. From Jane Austen to Charles Dickens to Virginia Woolf, we'll unravel the profound themes, dissect complex characters, and celebrate the literary masterpieces that continue to inspire readers today. Join our community of book enthusiasts as we'll discuss, share our thoughts, and appreciate the power and beauty of classic literature. Get ready for an unforgettable adventure and the joy of turning the pages of these timeless treasures. Welcome to the Classic Corner, where the magic of classic literature awaits. All right, welcome back. So I have an idea for this episode of doing 5 reasons why you should read historical fiction. And then I'm going to share with you also 5 of the top considered classical historical fiction novels. So there's a lot of modern historical fiction, and I'm a big fan of that too. I can give you some recommendations, but since this is the Classics Corner, we're going to talk about some of the more classic books that are historical fiction as well. So I'll give you one reason and then one of the top 5 recommendations that are out there on the internet. So the first reason why you should read historical fiction is because of engaging immersion. Historical fiction allows you to immerse yourself in different eras and experience history firsthand. It brings the past to life through captivating storytelling, vivid descriptions, and relatable characters. You'll find yourself transported to different time periods, walking alongside historical figures, and gaining a deeper understanding of the events that shaped our world. And I could say this is definitely the case for me. One of the reasons why I love learning about history through this lens. You can't even compare some of these masterpieces, some of these great historical fiction novels to a textbook, to just a dry textbook where you're not experiencing what they experience. You're not looking at it through maybe a different culture, different perspective, right? There's always 2 sides to every story and every battle, every war, and just being able to understand all the nuances of everything. And sure, everything is going to have some bias, of course, but you really do get a more immersive experience. And I can't tell you how many subjects, how many things. I don't remember anything from school, learning about them in school. I don't remember anything from history, not a zilch from school, that's sad to say. But I have learned about, for example, the Scottish Highlands from the Outlander series, or I've learned so much about World War II through historical fiction, the Revolutionary War through historical fiction, and I vividly remember it more that way. So that's reason number 1. And recommendation number 1 is, drum roll please. Okay, we have War and Peace by Leo Tolstoy. So this masterpiece delves into the tumultuous, I'm going to say this wrong, Napoleonic era. Sorry if I'm saying that wrong. Weaving together the lives of diverse characters against the backdrop of war and social change. Tolstoy's vivid descriptions and deep exploration of human nature make this epic a must-read for any historical fiction enthusiast. The book, it's on my radar, it's on my shelf. I did enjoy Anna Karenina, which is another one that he wrote, but for some reason War and Peace is a little bit more intimidating for me. It's a pretty big book. However, I am reading Les Mis right now, and that is called The Brick. That is a huge book, and I'm very much enjoying it. I'm really enjoying the experience. So that gives me a little bit more hope that I could also enjoy War and Peace, because yes, it's a huge book and it's an older book, and so you can get intimidated that way. But reading one and understanding that, okay, this is a great experience, gives me hope that I could do the same with War and Peace. So let's go with reason number 2 why you should read historical fiction, and that's learning through entertainment. Reading historical fiction is a fantastic way to learn about history in an entertaining and accessible manner. And this is what I was saying before. Instead of dry textbooks or factual accounts, you get to explore historical events through the lens of compelling narratives. The blend of fact and fiction creates an engaging experience that sparks curiosity and encourages further exploration of historical topics. And this is so true for me as well. When I read one of the books that's on this list, I won't mention it right now, I got so interested in the Civil War more than I had ever before. So now I'm reading autobiographies and books from, Sherman and different players in that situation. I was only curious about it by reading historical fiction. I was really intrigued and interested in the life of Alexander Hamilton from a historical fiction book called I, Eliza Hamilton, by one of my favorite modern historical fiction authors. That book really made me interested in then him and then Alexander. And the same thing with another one that she wrote, The Secret Wife of Andrew Burr, got me excited and intrigued and curious to learn more about Andrew Burr and his complexities. So I only researched history more and learned about it because something was sparked by reading historical fiction. So that's a really great reason, number 2. So for book number 2, I've not read this one. I don't know much about it, but it's Pillars of the Earth by Ken Follett. This is considered number 2. Set in 12th century England, this gripping tale takes us on a journey through the construction of a grand cathedral. Filled with political intrigue, love, and ambition, Follett's meticulous research and rich storytelling create an immersive experience that will transport you back in time. So, like I said, this is not one that I own. I haven't heard too much about it, but it must be pretty popular if it's on the top 2, in the top 5 spot. So now let's go to reason number 3, and that is emotional connection. So historical fiction has the power to evoke a wide range of emotions. You'll laugh, cry, and feel a deep sense of empathy as you witness characters navigating the challenges, triumphs, and heartbreaks of their time. By connecting emotionally with the characters, you develop a personal investment in the story, making the historical events even more impactful. I know that I have been moved to tears with different books, yes, even some on this list that I'm going to mention with the historical fiction. And unlike some other books, of course, you could do this with fiction as well. The beauty of it is that we have our critical faculty in our brains that can, tell the difference between what's real and not real. We know the difference between real life and a daydream, for example, even though like nightmares and daydreams and reality, it uses the same parts of the brain, right? But we can tell what's real and what's not real. Well, we choose to pause that disbelief when we read a book and willingly choose to believe what it says. We know that it's just ink on a page. It's just black and white text on a page. We know that it's not real. We know that it's fiction. And yet we momentarily suspend that disbelief to immerse ourselves in this story, right? Like point number 1. So, and we'll feel things deeply. We'll cry, we'll get excited, we'll have the page turners, we'll have the heartbreaks, everything, right? You're rooting for these characters. But the thing with historical fiction that's just a little bit different and more impactful is that a lot of times these are based off of real characters. And so you can really imagine what they must have gone through. Yes, we focus on Alexander Hamilton, but how many people really stop and think, what did Eliza go through, right? So that, and even if it's not based on a real person, but a persona or some audience that did live through those events, for example, the Great Depression, reading a book about that and understanding, having a deeper insight as to what they really were going through, how scary it is to have a family to feed with maybe no income, no food available, and this something that it's not, you can't compare it to today, right? With all the safety nets and things that we have in place. So just being able to, yes, pause your disbelief that this is not real and choose to embrace it and accept it as real and feel those feelings, but also knowing that these are characters very much that existed during this time, and went through that war, went through that decade with those challenges. And so you appreciate it, I feel like, a little bit more. So now let's go back to the list and let's see on the internet what is number 3. And that is actually one of my favorites. It is Gone with the Wind by Margaret Mitchell. So this is set during the American Civil War and its aftermath. This iconic novel introduces us to the unforgettable Scarlett O'Hara. Mitchell's compelling narrative explores themes of love, survival, and the dramatic changes experienced by the Southern United States. It is a true classic that continues to captivate readers worldwide. Now, I don't know if you know this, but there have been sequels written for this because she ended it in sort of, is not a happy ending, but it's a very realistic ending. Very realistic, I think. Most books try to tie it up into a happy ending, but I think she really did a great job of showing consequences. And this is what happens. Now, there is Rhett's People, and then there's another one that picks up right a little bit after. I think this is when, is it Mammy dies, I think? I can't remember. But it picks up with her at her bedside. And Rhett's also there, so they have a meeting. But the thing is, Margaret Mitchell never wanted there to be a sequel. So these are sequels written without her. She was not involved in them with them. I think eventually she gave way to the pressure of, her team or publisher, whoever, giving consent, permission for it to be published, and kind of, I don't know if it's like in the canon or not, but it's out there. They didn't get sued, obviously. So there's a couple of sequels. But Margaret Mitchell never wanted there to be a sequel. So I just thought I would mention that. If you've read the sequels, I'd love to hear your thoughts. I know one of my friends have read and she loved it. She thought it did such a good job of tying it in. But I don't know, I could just tell reading it that it wasn't the same voice as Margaret Mitchell. I don't know if any two people can really, even if one tried to imitate the other, can truly have the same writing style. We're all just so unique in that way. So it's interesting. Okay, so moving on, I'm kind of going on a tangent there. Number 4, reason why you should read historical fiction is understanding human nature. So one of the beauties of historical fiction is its exploration of human nature across different time periods. By delving into the lives of characters from the past, you gain insights into the complexities of human behavior, motivations, and societal dynamics. It offers a unique perspective on how individuals and societies have evolved, highlighting both the universality and uniqueness of human experiences. And it's funny because somebody just, one of my friends commented this on one of my previous videos when we were talking about Anna Karenina, that Leo Tolstoy really did have a knack for that human nature observation and writing about it. So that's a great character, Anna Karenina. You see the complexities of, her starting out one way and then getting caught up in something and being everything she sort of despised in the beginning, and understanding where she was coming from, how it happened, how it ended up taking her life, even consuming her. It's a great cautionary tale. So yes, some authors are just really great at this, just understanding human nature, being able to write about it in such a compelling way, and just really thought-provoking. So number 4, we have a book that I have on my shelves, but I haven't read yet. I really want to, and that is The Count of Monte Cristo. This is by Alexander Dumas. This thrilling tale of revenge and redemption is set in early 19th century France. Join Edmond Dantes on his quest for justice as he navigates the intricacies of French society and plots his vengeance against those who wronged him. Dumas' intricate plot twists and vivid characters make this a timeless masterpiece. Now, I don't know why, but I have a hard time connecting with French historical fiction. And I mean, I'm reading Les Mis right now. It's very much that. And so I'm kind of coming around to it. But for some reason, I will say I read to my kids out loud the Scarlet Pimpernel. And so that, that wasn't too bad. And you see, yes, the whole leading up to the French Revolution and of course the horrors of the guillotine and coming after everybody and their families and all of that. I just don't connect to it as much as other countries and their history, but I'm coming around. So this would be a good one, I guess, to also explore. And let's go to reason number 5, and that is timeless themes and relevance. Despite being set in the past, historical fiction often tackles universal themes that remain relevant today. Issues such as love, power, identity, justice, and resilience transcend time, and historical fiction allows us to reflect on these themes through a historical lens. It prompts us to contemplate how the past influences the present and consider the lessons we can learn from history. This is so true. History often repeats itself. There is nothing new under the sun. And so by understanding the past, we can do better and prepare for the future. I mean, even in the Bible, you see and you wonder, like, God, don't these people get it right? The Israelites, like going through these cycles of getting right with God and then falling into these same temptations and patterns, and then the repercussions of that, and then the redemptive arc and the second chance, and then it just keeps going over and over. And sometimes they had lost what they had, the religious texts, they had lost them. Someone had to find them again. And so if they were just reading about their history, maybe they could have learned from that without repeating the same mistakes. But look, it happens to every generation, I think. Oh, let's try communism again. I don't understand that. I really don't. Based on the history that you have, and even in current places like Cuba, for example. But that's such as human nature, right? We just think we know better and looking ahead, and it can be different this time, and not taking into account the black guys in our past. So that is a really great reason. Just learning from mistakes. It's better to learn from mistakes from reading about it than actually experiencing it. And so to go along with that, book number 5 is To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. This is considered number 5, the top 5 historical fiction books in the classic realm, right? While not strictly historical fiction, this novel produces a poignant exploration of racial inequality and social justice in the 1930s American South. Through the eyes of Scout Finch, we witness the impact of prejudice and the power of empathy. Lee's powerful storytelling and memorable characters have made this book a literary classic. And I know this could get a little controversial, but I just like to observe. I'm very interested in how people today think about these books and classics and the different reactions they provoke now versus when the book came out. When the book came out, I'm sure it was considered controversial for its own set of reasons. But even today, I'm noticing that even within the African American community, there is a lot of criticism for this book because of the white savior complex. So that's just really interesting to me, how they view the book in such a way, in such a lens. Like, you can really, books are such a subjective experience, and life is a subjective experience. So how you take in information, how you process it, how you internalize it, and of course, it's going to be different for everybody based on their own experiences or things that they were taught at an early age. It's going to affect the way that they view things such as shows, movies, books. So today, it's interesting how people are upset and angry that people in the past don't view books, events, the same way as people do today. But that's sort of impossible. You can't, it's an unrealistic expectation to be mad at people in the past because they didn't think of things the way you think about them now. So that's interesting. That's why you have the book banning and the pulling down the statues. And I understand all the nuances and, the different thoughts behind it. But the fact that, To Kill a Mockingbird was praised because of that commentary, because it's trying to bring light into maybe some of the prejudices that were happening today, that audience that it was meant to, focus on and help, they're criticizing it because maybe it didn't do enough, or because of the characters that were considered the hero, what color they were. So I don't know. I think about that it's just so interesting. And I think it's the minority. I think most people, the majority, still receive it as a really great historical fiction book that did, that was trying to do a lot of good. But still, it's just interesting to see how it's being looked at today. And so anytime I mention any books, any book list, just know that I'm very well aware of the controversy. I have a YouTube series where I talk about controversial books, such as maybe, the Complete Tales of Uncle Remus, or maybe some of the other books that have words in them that we don't use today, but they were very well received and considered great literature at the time. All of these different things we talk about also on my YouTube channel if you want to check it out. But that's it for this video. It kind of went a little bit all over the place, but look, it's historical fiction and sometimes it's going to be controversial too. But the more you read it, I do think it's a tool to be more empathetic, to understand other people's cultural perspectives, what they went through during different time periods. I think Gone with the Wind, it's also considered controversial because, maybe it kind of lifted up I don't know if you could say this word on YouTube or not. Kind of the guys who would wear the white sheets, right? But I think instead it just did a good job of explaining the actions that led up to that. And the book would say, not saying that it's right or wrong. It's just explaining what were the events that led up to it? What were the emotions that people were feeling that led up to that? And whether you agree with it or not, feelings are valid, right? This is how they felt. This is the events that they were living in at the time. This is the changes that they were going through. Everything has consequences and effects. World War II is a consequence of World War I. What happened with Germany was a consequence of what happened to Germany in World War I. So there is a strong cause and effect there, and I think we do a disservice when we just try to ignore it, when we try to ignore the causes and just focus on the effects, if it was bad or good, and judging it. We need to open up the talk and the perspective to look at the cause that created the effect. So I'm sorry, I kind of went a little bit all over the place in this podcast, but the goal was to share with you 5 reasons to read historical fiction. Again, engaging immersion, learning through entertainment, emotional connection, understanding human nature, and the timeless themes and relevance. And to share with you what are considered the top 5 historical fiction books. And that was, again, to recap, War and Peace by Leo Tolstoy, Pillars of the Earth by Ken Follett, Gone with the Wind by Margaret Mitchell, The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexander Dumas, and To Kill a Mockingbird as well, Harper Lee. I didn't mention her name, I think, but yes, Harper Lee. I will leave these links in the show notes if you want to check them out. I really encourage you, especially my favorites from the list are Gone with the Wind and To Kill a Mockingbird. All right, thank you so much for listening, and I will see you on another episode of the Classics Corner. Don't forget, you can always join us at our Amazon book club that is under the same name, the Classics Corner Book Club. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode.